All right, 6th grade, this is a tough one. Quite a bit of decimals, we have some conversions, and I even throw a new formula at you at the bottom of it. Don't freak out, because here's what you have to understand. 1, you get to use a calculator, so decimals shouldn't be a problem. 2, anytime you see a formula, whether it's new or old, what do? Plug in what you know and evaluate. All right, let's take a look at our problem. Jackson has a problem. Told you. He is trying to measure around his basketball so that he can replace one of the rubber strips that goes around the basketball. The replacement shop only sells strips in units of feet. All he knows is that the diameter of a basketball is 9.5 inches. So already you see the conflict. We have information in inches, but we have to go to feet. Part A, how long does his replacement rubber strip need to be? Round to the nearest tenth in feet and answer in sentence form. This last part's new, the sentence form. I would teach in my classes. If you have a word problem, you need to be able to give a word answer. Just makes sense. So, when we're done, we want to have a coherent thought when we write our answer. So let's talk about this basketball, okay? Beautiful basketball, almost. Let's put our rubber strips on there, and now we're hooping. All right. So we want to replace one of these rubber strips. So we know basketball is a sphere, right? We understand that. But if I take one strip of rubber and I have to replace it and it goes all the way around the basketball, what do we use to measure the distance around a circle? Circumference. Hopefully that's something that jumped out at you. Now there are 2 ways to look at circumference. You can do 2 pi r, or we use pi times d. Both will give you the exact correct answer. So don't worry about which one you choose. One that would jump off the page at me, if I'm given the diameter, I'm going to use that formula. But I can still use the radius. What's the relationship between radius and diameter? Radius is just twice the, the radius is half the diameter, meaning the diameter is twice the radius, which is why 2 times r can be replaced by d, okay? Before we start plugging in, the first conflict we saw was that our information is in inches, but we need to move to feet. So my advice, whenever you are converting, convert early and often. It's going to save you, especially when you get to area or volume. You want to convert before you start your calculations. So let's talk about that. I know that I have 9.5 inches as my diameter, okay? But what I need to know is how many feet that is. What's the relationship between feet and inches? How many inches are in a foot? 12. Hopefully you knew that. So because we know that relationship, if you give me any number of inches, I can divide that by 12 to find out how many feet exist. And that's exactly what we're going to do. For my diameter, I just take my inches and divide by 12. From here, I get approximately 0.79. I know my diameter. If you're using this equation, it's rock and roll time. I'm going to replace pi with a 3.14, and my diameter is 0.79. Now, don't freak out if you use this one. That's okay. You're just going to take 2 times 3.14 times half of my diameter, so half of 0.79, 0.395. Either one of these methods does not matter. Now we're just multiplying. You'll get the same answer with each of them. You arrive at 2.48. And if you put this as your answer, you're wrong for 2 reasons. One says round to the nearest tenth. We've seen some mistakes with rounding. Nearest tenth, meaning that's the first decimal place. So I need to round to this decimal place, so I look right behind it. If it's 5 or higher, this number goes up. 4 or lower, stay where you are. So this is going to become 2.5. But if you just write 2.5 feet, you're wrong again, because what else did it ask? In sentence form. In sentence form. So what did this 2.5 represent? Represented the rubber section we have to replace in the basketball. So that's essentially all you have to say. I would state, Jackson must get a 2.5 foot section of rubber That's really all I have to state. See, it is the same answer, but can you state it in sentence form? Jackson must get a 2.5 foot section of rubber. That's all I have to say. All right? How do we do it? Based off the information, we had to determine what formula to use. And then we had to recognize, look, the units they gave us is not the units that they want. So we converted inches into feet, and then we evaluated, rounded to the correct decimal place, and stated what this answer meant. Okay? You ready for the new formula? Let's take a look. Now we're talking volume. Now we're talking volume. Oh, still drawn. Now we want the volume, and look, I gave you the formula, okay? Notice the formula only has radius. So let's put on what our radius is. Remember we found it up there? 0.395. I know that's my radius in feet, right? Because look, they still want it in feet. They still want it in feet, so keep it in feet. Plug in. As long as you're not freaking out over this new formula, this was pretty easy. Because all I'm doing is plugging in. I have 4/3 times pi times my radius cubed. Little side note, that cubed, our units will be cubed. Did you notice when you're doing like perimeter or anything linear, your units are always just feet or inches? Once you started seeing area, because you were doing 2 dimensions, your units were squared. Volume deals in real world, so now there's 3 dimensions, which is why your units will be cubed. Keep that in mind. All right. Order of operations, which one do you do first? PEMDAS. PEMDAS. So I'm looking at the exponents. So I'm going to leave that 4/3 alone. I'm going to leave that 3.14 alone. Now with your calculator, you can either do 0.395 cubed, or when you cube something, you're just multiplying it by itself 3 times. So 0.395 times 0.395 times 0.395. Feels a little repetitive, but your final answer would be 0.0616. It's okay, don't freak out. Don't freak out. We took a very, very small number and multiplied it by itself 3 times. It's going to get even smaller, okay? Now we're all on the same level. All it is multiplication. So all you have to do is multiply 3 numbers together, which will give us our approximate answer of 0.257. Okay? That's just multiplication. Use your calculator, you should get it. Now here's the last piece. They don't tell us what to round to. If they tell us a certain spot to round in part A, let's apply that exact same one down here in part B. 10th. It's going to be a very short answer. 10th. First decimal place, which means I look right behind it. 5 or higher goes up, so this becomes 0.3. What do we convert to? Feet, and it's volume, so it is cubed. This week was meant to challenge you. We did not expect a lot of students to be able to get both parts. So if you're struggling, you're normal. This was really reaching to see, hey, how much are we really grasping? And you guys haven't even seen this formula yet. You will before the istep. So we want to make sure that you get exposed to some new things and see how you react to it. Stay focused. Do not quit. Attempt. Try what you can. If you have any questions, ask your teacher or myself if you see me around. Excellent job. Keep working. Keep learning.